So you don't have to suffer though in perimenopause. And these women need to know that they are not broken. This is something that we all go through and we can go through it, really gently. We can feel amazing during perimenopause.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I did notice, in the last decade, that if women don't have, a church community or reading their Bible, they will not feel completely whole or completely well. Like they won't get to that like 100%. They'll lag, that is missing too, because that is peace and that will help with the stress.
Welcome to My MD Unscripted, where healthcare gets personal and the script gets tossed. I'm Dr. Clint Carter, ER doctor turned direct primary care freedom fighter, on a mission to challenge how our healthcare system treats patients in America. In every episode, my expert guests and I dive into real conversations about what's broken and how we can fix it by making healthcare about people, not just managing disease. It's time to rethink what healthcare should be and how we can make it better together. Welcome to the podcast. Hey, y'all. Welcome to another episode of My MD Unscripted. I'm your host, Dr. Clint Carter, and we love talking about all the things that you wish your doctor would talk about. We have one of our favorite topics today, which is talking about hormone optimization and helping you feel your best now and later. And we are dealing with Dr. Jen. She is a physician, both double boarded in emergency medicine and integrative medicine. She's an author. We're going to get into that today. She's a podcast host of her own, and she's on a mission to transform women's health. So welcome, Dr. Jen. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Clint. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Tell us more about a little bit about your story, how you went, women's health here when you were, rocking along as an ER doctor not that long ago.
Yeah, it's amazing how that works. So I went to school to be a DO because I thought they focused more on root cause, like A.T. Still, the founder. He was an MD that started DO schools for more root cause medicine. And then I went to, the emergency room to practice, and I got very disillusioned with medicine. I was like actually writing diet plans for people in the ER and talking to them about what they ate. Yeah, because I'm like, look, like you've had 5 CT scans this year and you're only 20 years old. Like, we should probably like figure out like what's going on. And, they're going to their doctor. And so anyway, I literally remember the day. I remember what house we lived in. I remember coming home. Like, I was reading all these books on chronic illness, like Lyme, EBV. And I was like, I looked at my husband. I'm like, oh, like I need to go back to do a fellowship in integrative medicine. He's like, well, you already like are learning. I'm like, no, I want a board certification. Like, I want to learn the things that I don't want to learn in that subject too, because we could just pick our favorites if
Yeah.
we don't have like the education. So went back and did that, healed. And while I was going through that whole process, like I was also having kids at the same time. So I was getting into like cloth diapering and breastfeeding and, went gluten-free and healed my Hashimoto. So it all just like beautifully flourished, and this is where you really see like God's sovereignness and like just his providence like working out in your life. And, it's great. And then here I am now living in Tennessee. We moved from Ohio to Tennessee this year, just really trying to slow down. I closed my brick and mortar. The Lord told me to write this book, The Perimenopause Reset, that it's faith-based. And, it's just been great. So that's kind of how it ended up. Like, it kind of wasn't all my decision and it just happened. So
I love it.
it's been a wild ride. Yeah.
Man,
Yeah. So
what's funny is you don't know it, but I was an ER doctor, got disillusioned. I had Hashimoto's,
for a lot of like that.
felt like crud. My tea was through the floor as well. And so I was right there with you. And then once I kind of, God was like, I thought I was going to quit medicine altogether, and God and my wife had other ideas, and here we are. And so it's wonderful when God takes you on a ride because, you don't know where it's going to end, but you're in the right seat. So.
And it also teaches a lot, you a lot about yourself, like pride, like
Yeah.
how many things are you doing or not doing because of pride? And it's so funny that like I thought I was in control of things and literally not. We are not.
No.
So, but it's just so funny because, like, us talking, because those out there, you might not know, like, doctors are control freaks.
Yeah.
And it's not healthy. I mean, you want your doctor to have some sort of control, like, when there was a code in the ER, like, or not in the ER, but on the floor, and you know how it is, the ER doctors
Oh,
go up, even as
yeah.
residents, we command the room, we are cool, calm, and collected, we are in control of that room, and we are told to be, and just like we're in control of our entire ER when it is falling apart, like,
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, you want that, but there's that control, and then there's also, like, we literally think we, like, are in control of our lives, and
Yeah.
so giving up yeah, like, when we surrender, we can actually do what God, like, wanted us to do and we're actually good at. So this is funny fact, which probably a lot of people don't know because I do a lot of speaking, like, a lot. I used to hate public speaking, and
Ah,
now, like, I love it because I love what I talk about,
that's
and
it.
some people say I'm actually good at it when I go to conferences, so it's pretty funny, when
I'm with
we
you. I love it. And it is mostly because I'm just passionate and, I just tell my story and everyone identifies with, all of the reasons why it's hard in the system to have a purpose and all of the things that we're doing outside of that, where God just opens up all these doors, hormones, peptides, really making lifestyle changes. It's so great.
yeah,
So
it really is.
we're going to touch on the idea of the book, Perimenopause Reset. What is
Yeah.
perimenopause actually? Like, people get menopause, right? You're going through hot flashes and your hormones are kind of all over the place. But what is perimenopause?
Yeah, so menopause is the 1 year without a cycle. So your estradiol, your estrogen levels are basically nothing, right? And that's that, like, hard stop where, we know you're in menopause and your hormones are just bleh, like, gone, right? And that's usually where doctors step in and do something. So perimenopause is that that decade before. Sometimes,
Yeah.
yes, perimenopause the symptoms can be a decade before. And women just feel very lost. And, I didn't even know that this was something that 90% of my patients are perimenopausal women. And because this is where they go to doctor, they feel anxious, they feel confused, they are gaining weight and they haven't changed anything. They're not sleeping as well, they're short with their kids. The list goes on and on. Palpitations, that can just be one of the subtle symptoms. So what do they do when they go to their conventional doctor? The conventional doctor just says, okay, well, we're not checking hormones because it's not going to tell us anything, which isn't true. And then they're like, well, you're tired because you're a mom and you're
Yep.
probably depressed.
Yep.
So
Yep.
why don't we give you antidepressants and birth control?
Yep.
Literally, like, that's how many times have you heard
I mean,
that
I
from?
would say that would be considered standard of care. Your periods are a little weird.
Ugh. Yeah.
You're depressed and anxious and everything's harder than it should be. Let's treat those symptoms. Let's treat that fruit and let's not worry about the root. Yeah.
Yeah, let's just make it worse. And then we see complications from that. And it's honestly kind of cringeworthy sometimes where sometimes women will be put on birth control in their late 30s and
Yeah.
they'll just stay on birth control and they
Yes.
won't even know when they're going through menopause.
Correct.
And I'm just
Absolutely.
yes, and you know what else? This is the new trick that these doctors are saying. These doctors, I say that. But,
Yeah.
like, they need to stay curious and know that they're poisoning their patients, giving them birth control. But whatever, I mean, that's common knowledge. Like, they're just, like, doubling down on it, like, disillusion. But it's okay to say you're wrong. If you're a doctor listening out there, it's okay to say you're wrong. Like, I used to do medicine wrong too. Like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
used to
All the
prescribe
time.
medications. Like, I never prescribed birth control though, so that's good. But but anyway, so this birth control, they're now telling, like, I just saw someone and they were on a progestin,
Yes.
which
Right.
is synthetic progesterone. They were told that it was progesterone because they told me, they're like, "Oh, I'm taking progesterone, but I'm taking it every day." And I'm like, "You're taking a mini pill, I bet. You're taking a progestin." And they were. And I'm like, "That is so shady." They literally thought they were on progesterone. So
Yeah,
there
they don't
are
know the
so many.
difference. Those doctors, to come to their advocate, to be the advocate of that guy or female who prescribed that, they literally think that is progesterone. Like, they don't,
Yeah.
they're not taught we're not taught in our basic training the difference between a bioidentical and a progestin on
It's
either side. I
scary.
mean, to me, when I was in residency, people said bioidentical hormones, and I was like, oh, hormone's a hormone, leave me alone.
Mhm.
Crazy. They're just not
Yeah,
taught.
but then we became passionate and we got further training, in hormones and
Oh yeah.
certification. And that's the thing. I feel like they should just be like, "Hey, like, I haven't taken any extra courses in this. Maybe you should go to someone that I don't know." This is what they're told. So, you don't have to suffer, though, in perimenopause, and these women need to know that they are not broken. This is something that we all go through, and we can go through it, really gently. We can feel amazing during perimenopause.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I did notice, in the last decade, that if women don't have, a church community or reading their Bible, they will not feel completely whole or completely well. Like they won't get to that like 100%. They'll lag, that is missing too, because that is peace and that will help with the stress. And, having that community too. And that's what the Bible calls us to do, not to stay home and stay isolated, but to have a church community, people to hold you accountable and stuff. So I think that the faith based portion is so important because in perimenopause, women, we feel lonely and isolated. So what does the enemy do? They're like, hey, like, Satan's like, let's go. We're going to make it worse. We're going to apply some
Yes, sir.
pressure, spiritual warfare. A lot of divorces happen here. A lot of
Yeah.
women search for like new age stuff. They
Yeah.
decide to be like Swifties, at age like
Yeah.
35 or 40. They're like,
Yeah.
we're going to get all the Taylor Swift I don't know. Like, I joke about that, but like, that's a big issue. But they find other idols or they do a yoga teaching training, which I got sucked into the new age. And I talk a lot about that in my book, how I got free from that. So there's a lot of scariness there too, because also I'm sure you see this a lot, Clint, like integrative functional medicine world is very new agey, and that does not bring peace.
Yep.
Like, yeah,
I
let me tell
agree.
you, because I was into it. I was a yoga instructor, had a yoga studio attached to my integrative medicine office.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice. No, not nice, but that's part of my testimony. So the
Well,
Lord
and it
used
is
it for
business wise, it makes sense. People are looking for flexibility and inner peace, right? And yoga's offering movement and inner peace. And we do have some yoga around here that tries to blend in faith and yoga. And, it gets real sticky real quick. And my sister-in-law, who owns multiple yoga studios, is now no longer married to my brother. And it's just one of those deals where you just get enlightened in your own way. And Satan uses that and takes you away from the truth. And so,
Yeah, it's disguised as light, and that's what
yeah,
it says in the Bible,
exactly.
the
Wow,
enemy
it's
is
exactly how
disguised
it
as
ends up here.
light.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is so crazy because, I will bring it up and, yoga instructors will like attack me and be so mean. And I'm like,
Yes.
well, but it was interesting when I was like in it, when I was like hiring yoga instructors and dealing with like people, like they are really not happy people. Like, I don't know. It was crazy because I was on this Facebook, you know, yoga studio owners, and we would all like say that how they were very difficult to work. It's because it's like it's not true light, it's only Jesus is the light. So anyway, I
Yep.
have no problem exposing that and talking about that because I was in it. So I can actually
Awesome.
say that it did not bring me peace. I think it robbed me of a lot of peace. So I'm so grateful for being redeemed from that. But yeah, so all of these things like happen, and it's so hard on the family unit, and sometimes the family unit breaks,
Yep.
and we don't need that. And women, we are better than that. And also, I think it's important for men to understand
Yes,
what women
ma'am.
are going through in perimenopause. Yes. And get them help. Another part of my passion is talking to men about perimenopause. And I will do this to anyone that talks to me about it, new friends, new whatever,
Yeah,
church
don't
people.
ask me what I
Um,
do
you
at the
know,
ball game. I'll tell you.
Yes. I'll be like, "Do you know, like, perimenopause, I mean, it is not your wife's fault that she's more irritable. Like, we need to work on her progesterone, her stress levels. Like, you need to support her, like,
Yeah.
make sure she's getting enough protein, like, help with the kid." Like, I don't know. I
Yeah.
I will.
And by the way, you're probably low T, so go get yourself taken care of as well, so that you have a little something left over for the family when you get home from work. And
Oh,
there's a
yes.
a lot
Yes.
to that for sure.
Andropause. Yes. No, it's so true. Like, yeah. And then you have the men going through the andropause
Yeah.
and then they're not as motivated and their growth hormone is, yeah. I think a family should just all have refrigerator with a couple vials of peptides in it, know how to use them, have their supplements, have their protein, live on a little acreage to look at nature.
That'd be
We got to,
awesome. But there's
yeah.
a lot of people stuck in an apartment or a home too small because that's where they're at in life and they're on the highway an hour commuting one way to work and
Yeah.
trying to make it.
Yeah. Well,
But that's where
they can,
sitting with your
they can do it
patients and
too.
getting into their lives and figuring out where can we find those holes in your schedule that you can do the right
Oh, yeah.
thing, you know?
Yeah, if they don't have a lot of room or even resources,
Yeah.
even money, there's so many practical things that you can do
Yeah.
focusing on the 4 pillars of health, just movement every day, even just walking, even just having 2 20-pound dumbbells. Like, you could do a lot with that squat upper bodies, just having that at home, making sure your sleep is good. You're not scrolling on your phone until 2 a.m., that you are in bed at 9:30, 10. And then nutrition and just hitting protein goals, avoiding sugar. There's just so much low hanging fruit. The
There's
other
so
stuff
much.
is just the icing on top.
Yeah. Okay. So, you've got lifestyle modification. So we're in our toolkit. We're talking about, mostly 40 something year old females that they're not, everything's a little bit harder than it used to be. Their cycles are probably a little heavier, a little weird, but they're still fairly regular. And so they're definitely not menopause, but they're just, everything's harder than it should be. They're a little more moody. They're a little less attracted to their husbands. Everything's just a little bit, they're running a family, they're running the home. Some of them are also having jobs. My wife does all of that and runs our practice as well. So you got what tools are in our toolkit here? We got lifestyle modification. What else do you do?
Yeah. So one thing you said about the cycle. So another thing that happens is the cycle shorten. So 28
Yeah.
days, 27 days, and then they'll start shortening to 25, 24. And that's the progesterone with that decline. So progesterone is just going to
Ah,
keep declining. So then we're having like an estrogen dominance kind of state going on.
yeah.
And that could be for many reasons. You might not be detoxifying your estrogens as well. You could always have been a little estrogen dominant, but you didn't notice until that progesterone starts really tanking. Plus, if you're more stressed or you're not sleeping well, all the things, your progesterone is going to be affected by cortisol. So, depending on where in the perimenopause they are, if they come to me and they're like heavy in perimenopause, right? Like probably like you ask them, when did your mother go through menopause? That's a good indicator. And they say
Yeah.
50 and they're like 45. And you're like, well, we're just going to start progesterone during that second half, that luteal phase. We're going to mimic their cycle and
Nice.
support that. And if they're really early, or if it's a younger woman in her 20s and she's having estrogen dominance like symptoms, we can give a little chase tree berry and give it at least 3 months of daily use. So Vitex or chase tree berry, and that helps your
Okay.
body endogenously make more progesterone. So that could be helpful. And then, when we look at the giving that progesterone, it really also we give it orally and it really helps with sleep too. So that kind of
Yes.
helps in both standpoints. Now, some people they talk about, do we give estrogen during perimenopause? And
Yeah.
I tend to say no. So
Right.
it would be a rare circumstance to give it to someone if they were really close to menopause. So
Mhm.
why? Why do we not do this? So we don't want to do harm. So estradiol is more of like a building like tissue, so like breast and endometrial lining and stuff. So if we have a lot of estradiol and we don't have adequate progesterone, then there's like a big mismatch, right? So progesterone protects from like overgrowth of the breast tissues and we worry about cancers and stuff. So progesterone is
Yeah.
protective in that way. So if we have the estradiol high, what happens during perimenopause is that we kind of get these erratic spikes of estradiol.
Yes.
So we might have this cycle where it's like a little heavy out of nowhere. Sometimes that could be from like another spike of estradiol because our follicles aren't as robust as they used to be when we were in our 20s. So our body with the feedback loop, we stimulate the ovaries to secrete another follicle, so we get another surge of estradiol.
Yeah.
So for me, I like to first do no harm. So I don't prescribe a lot of estradiol, like hardly ever during perimenopause. But what I
Agree.
will do, say a woman is having like their tissue on their face is sagging, they're losing volume, they're having vaginal dryness and
Yeah.
saggy tissue down there. It's affecting their sex life. So we give some topical estriol, which is a weaker estrogen, and it really does nice things to the face. Pair it with some retinol, and then vaginally down there, you can, add some other things to there too, like DHEA, but usually just
Yeah.
some estriol down in the vaginal area is very nice. And we still, we'll check saliva testing because we're putting on topical hormones and make sure that we are doing things safely. But it's the wild west out there with hormones. I actually had a patient listen to a podcast where they were like, "Oh, you have saggy skin. Use this estriol cream all over your body,
Oh
and
God.
that will help your skin." Okay, doesn't that give you nightmares?
Yeah.
So I didn't know she did this, and we were just checking her saliva, or we were checking her saliva hormones,
Yeah.
and her estradiol and estriol were sky high, like toxic levels.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? That would
Does
be
she
a
have a
very
tumor? Like, what's going on? Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
I was so, and then she told me what happened, and she said that she was putting like 3 squirts, like, on her stomach, like, on her face, like, all over, and this had, like, 3 milligrams of estradiol in it. And this is just on the internet, and it was just like a health coach, of course, like, support, I was just because there's no consequences, you
No.
can say whatever you want.
Yep.
So, and I'm like, we're gonna stop that, and we're gonna, I was just like, and I'm like, "I can't guarantee that you did not cause cancer or problems." I can't guarantee that. So that's why it's scary, and I guess there's a new thing out there. Some doctors are saying, "Oh, we're gonna mimic your cycle with your hormones during perimenopause." It's like, you don't know what estradiol is doing. It's very erratic. Like, you do not know. You are not God. You do not know. So
No.
we have to, yeah, we can do harm. So I just want to bring up those examples because you need to go to someone that is not just on the bandwagon, that really cares about your health and your well-being. So anyway, back to, like, if you're worried about saggy skin, this is why if you go to someone, like Clint or I, like, they have many tools in their toolbox. You have saggy skin, so yeah, we'll put a little estrel on your face and in your vaginal care. You have saggy skin elsewhere, we could do topical GHK copper peptides. We can do growth hormone secretagogues. Oh, you'll
Yeah.
look really young then.
Yeah.
There are other things we can do. There are lots of tools in the toolbox. So yeah, so perimenopause, and I do touch on peptides in the book and all that
Okay.
because we literally have lots of tools in the toolbox for a few reasons. One, resources. It might be financial resources. Some of this stuff's
Correct.
expensive.
Yeah.
Some people I still have women that just are very uncomfortable with hormones and using hormones. You could also have someone that, had cancer and they can't use
Yep.
hormones.
Yeah.
We're going to have other tools. So that's why, women are very unique, but a lot of the things that we can do that will help are pretty across the board
Right.
and will be
Yeah.
helpful.
We don't really use estradiol until you've been pretty close to a year without a period. We've gotten a
Exactly.
little, trigger happy at 6 months, and then you start getting the breakthrough bleeding and all that. And it's like, oh gosh, we went a little early. Obviously, that's easy to fix, but we're trying to first do
Yeah.
no harm.
Yeah. It's
We do
possible.
low dose, female dose testosterone replacement after, age 40 or so, whenever it goes out normally. A lot of times that helps with a lot of sort of that irregularity as well. But that was a sort of an eye-opening experience when I got trained on that. But really, just the ability to personalize this to the patient and where they are in this journey, because
Yeah.
everything is getting so hard. And then when they finally do go through menopause and the estrogen's gone, well, then they're just miserable. So I don't know
Yeah.
how women do it. They're amazing. They still run this country in their perimenopausal state. And my wife runs this practice. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But
Well, she has you to help with the hormones,
yeah,
and you know what she's going through.
yeah. And
So she's
she's
like,
bringing
"Honey, I'm late luteal phase, like, I need a bath and a book,
it.
or I just wanna, like, watch a show and not have anyone," like, you're gonna be like, "Oh," like,
Yep.
Okay. What
But
do you
wait,
want?
Steph, you don't want to talk about more problems at the office until like 11 o'clock tonight? No, no, thanks.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Because then I
there's
just
definitely
roll over and go to sleep.
yeah, no, I think it's beautiful. That's why I'm kind of obsessed with like cycle syncing because it's so empowering to like actually just work with your cycle. And it's really fun. Like my daughter and I, like our cycles like are always together. So it's fun because, well, I don't know if it's fun for all like the boys in our house and my husband, but it's-
Hey,
I think it's fun.
at least you
Cause
know
she'll
what's
be
up.
like, yeah, she'll be like, "Did you start yet?" Well, she actually, like, she won't take supplements really for me, so we had another
I
discussion
don't know
about
why
that
that's
because I
so
had
hard. Like, I don't want to swallow. They're hard to swallow. Like, hey,
you
you're gonna
know
be so much healthier and feel better, and not now, but later as well. Not just now, but later as well. Just finally, she's been getting sick lately, so she's actually our 17-year-old is finally she's like doing
yeah,
some
same
stuff
with
we
him.
asked. It's like, all right, hang in there.
Well, I think it's good when you're just not, "Just take this," like,
Yeah.
where, yes, you've explained it 100 times, but then they actually see consequences of not taking it. But it's also kinda cool because my daughter will like, one of her friends is having some problems with her
Mm,
cycle, and the doctor wants to put her on birth control, and
yeah, of
she doesn't
course.
need to be on birth control. So I'm like, "Well, I'll give you a copy of my book, and if your mom wants to talk to me, like, I'll talk to her about it." I can't give her medical advice, but I'm like, "Yeah, because my daughter was telling her, "Yeah, birth control is bad for you," and 'cause it affects their fertility,
Yeah.
and there's no informed consent with it, and I don't know if you see a lot of younger girls in your practice, but, it's so beautiful when these girls with these horrible periods where you just work on their estrogen metabolism and,
Yeah.
maybe throw a little case tree berry in there. Maybe like I had a patient that she was bleeding for like 7 days straight and, they were talking all sorts of crazy or not 7 days, like heavy 7 days, like I'm talking couldn't
Yeah.
do anything. And they were talking about all these crazy things like for conventional medicine and we
Yeah.
just got her regular with some progesterone and there are options out there. Like the body just wants to be in homeostasis, like how God intended. Like, you would appreciate this, Clint. So I was talking to someone how, like, the Bible says that women would have pain with childbirth, right? Like,
Correct.
the the Bible does not say that women would
No.
have pain with every cycle,
Yeah.
like, and miserable. Like, it doesn't say that. And, like, don't you think, like, the Bible, like, some of these women in the Bible, like Ruth, that they would just, like, complain about their menstrual cycle if it was supposed to be that bad, like, once in the Bible, don't you think? Anyway, but this is just all to make money. The more pads they sell, the more tampons, the more Midol, the more birth control. It's all for the benefit of money, right? So,
It's funny, I always like, me being direct primary care, which means membership based. So I don't take insurance and I speak of the system, which is the insurance world and stuff. And I always have to remind my listeners, like, there's not really a conspiracy. It's just something was insurance was meant to be helpful and it's just out of place and it's gone too far. It's kind of like I don't think there's a conspiracy around women's health and taking care of women poorly. There's so few people doing it right that everyone's like, well, take this, you'll feel a little better. Take this, you'll feel a little better. Like you said, there's a lot of people doing the same thing they did in the 50s and to finally be getting way past the Women's Health Initiative situation and getting some truth about some bioidentical type hormones and being able to really make a difference in these women's lives and some men's lives as well is super powerful. I love it.
yeah. Gosh, I mean, when you go out to eat at a restaurant and, an old couple walks by all hunched over, I mean, you can tell they're not on
Yeah.
hormones. Like you can tell and my heart kind of breaks a little bit because I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
they could so much better. So it
Well,
is
and
really important
the,
part of
the
aging.
Women's Health Initiative study that proved that, progestins are bad for you, right? And that, these synthetics and these non-estrogens are bad for you. Those same people that are given birth control and stuff full of non-hormones, fake hormones, you know, on to someone well past age 50, that as soon as you find out they're menopausal and it's, you finally take them off and, oh, look, you're menopausal, They're the same ones when, okay, the least amount of hormone for the shortest amount of time. Like, you were giving them birth control strength hormone for
Yeah.
when
Right.
did you make this switch? Like, why are it's the dissonance in the
Yeah.
thought process. It's like, can we put these people on a healthy replacement, once they hit menopause, hit a healthy replacement bioidentical strategy that's going to give them health now and later? Like, why is that so complicated? I don't understand.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Yeah, and one good resource too, compounding pharmacists,
Oh yeah.
they have always been our allies. Yeah,
Yeah.
and with the pandemic, they've been great. So, I mean, that's where a good place to start to like ask your compounding pharmacist, like, who would you go to? Because they know these
Oh
doctors like
yeah.
pretty
That's
well
great. Yeah.
that are prescribing this or know how. And I remember, oh my gosh, over a decade ago, like maybe 14 years ago, that's who took me to a hormone conference was a compounding pharmacist. Yeah,
That's
in
awesome.
Toronto. It's so long
That's
ago.
awesome.
My kids were so little. But yeah, good memories, good times. But yeah, it's eye-opening when you learn how much we didn't learn in medical school when it
So
comes
much.
to things that aren't pharmaceuticals, like big pharma, that can't be prescribed. So,
No.
and it takes us being curious or getting patients that didn't get better or ourselves, conventional medicine not working. But, like I inherently knew, like we were made to be like in homeostasis and to feel well. So, we don't have a deficiency of birth control or
Yeah.
pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, like, it's great once you see. I think, like many of us, we just can't stop learning about, like, integrative and functional medicine, and we'll never stop learning. It's so fascinating and great to see how people can I had a patient on, like, disability that, within 4 months of seeing me, went back on his boat, after being on disability.
Oh,
So,
that's so
this was
great. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, our bodies can get healthy.
Well, this is a message that needs to be out there. You've got a vision of helping 500,000 women reclaim energy, clarity, and joy. What's your strategy, or how can I help you get there?
Well, it's God's grace. So I've been praying a lot about this because I also need to find balance in my home and make sure my kids, I'm raising them properly and I do practice what I preach. So I need to be healthy too. I'm still seeing patients. I have a virtual practice and I I don't know, a lot of stuff is pay to play out there, like the people that you
Yeah.
see in front of you, and a lot of them are sponsored or they put their own money up. So just a lot of prayer for you know, just God's grace, like whatever he wants for this. I'm being proactive and I'm walking out, doing podcasts, doing my own social media. I'm going to be on a documentary coming up. So just when opportunities come up, I accept them. So, I'm open to suggestions too. I will go wherever I am supposed to go to help women. So I want to do some local events also, but I am willing to go wherever. I'm open to anything.
I love it. Well, we may have you swing by Texas here sometime soon and get
Yes,
a gathering together. I mean, if
that'd be
God gives
fun.
you a vision of a certain number, then he's got a plan. And that's
Yeah,
my favorite part. Like, one thing about direct primary care is it's not a volume industry, right? Like, we see one patient for an hour at a time. But we have a vision of 20,000 lives touched and thriving by 2030. Well, that's ridiculous number.
yeah,
But
yeah.
but
For
the but
direct primary care,
for
yeah,
direct
I love
primary
it.
care, right? But to
Mhm.
be able to do that, God's just gonna have to take some steps, and we'll have to have a couple locations, and we're just walking in faith. And so, a book is a great way to get out there and start touching lives. And then those that want to get you to come in and talk one-on-one or talk to a group, or how can people best get a hold of you?
I would love that. So best way, I have a couple websites. So drjenbook.com to grab the book. I have a perimenopause course and I have some other things I'm working
Right.
on. And Healthy by Dr. Jen, I have blogs, protocols, lots of things on there, and you can get a hold of me there. And if you want to work one on one, I do have my license in 4 different states, actually, Texas. So, Texas, Tennessee, Michigan, Ohio. And I do work one on one. with men and women and children, but I love seeing patients clinically still. And then on social media, Integrative Doctor Mom, Integrative DR Mom, and my YouTube also. So, and then I have a podcast that I'm gonna have you on too.
Yeah, I'd love to be on it. Yeah, integrative health podcast. Let's do it. I think on our way out, probably the best way might be, do you have a favorite scripture for women going through this season where they don't know what's going on? It's hard. You're walking in faith. Do you have a scripture that you lean on or you share with your patients a lot?
Yeah, well, one that comes to mind, Genesis 50:20, for what the enemy made for bad, God will make for
Oh,
good.
yeah.
So we had like just some really crazy things happen to us last fall as a family, and like down on my knees, like weeping with my family.
Mhm.
And it made us so much stronger. And, as Christians, we are going to suffer and go through hard times. So I think it's okay to actually like lean into those hard moments. Like if you're going through perimenopause and it's hard, like lean into that. And I also went through some like other hard things that like the person that I would always call, like I couldn't just call all the time. And I was calling them instead of calling on God. So it actually brought me so close to God. And
Yeah.
like you just have to realize like He is not going to waste these moments. So even in perimenopause, like it is not a wasted moment. And He doesn't want you to suffer through perimenopause, but like you will get through the hard things and it will be good.
Well, and perhaps them hearing you now is one of the ways God's reaching into their lives and answering some prayers. So thank you so much for
Yeah,
being
I love
on
that.
and for your message and for all that you're doing. It's been a pleasure. Can't wait to talk again soon. Thank you so much. Thanks for being on, Dr. Jen.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me today on My MD Unscripted. I hope today's conversation opened your mind and inspired you to imagine a better path for your health and therefore life. If you found value in this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone passionate about transforming healthcare. Real change starts with real conversations, so let's keep them going. Until next time, stay well, stay curious, and never stop pushing for better.